hauntings, cryptids, the unknown. Welcome to Mystic Moon Cafe Radio.
Yes. Sure. Hopefully.
Okie dokie.
If I don't fall off. I'm trying not to
4,
move.
3, 2, 1.
Uh-oh.
And we're live. Hello, everybody. I think June's alive there.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Mystic Moon Cafe. Sorry, we're having a little technical difficulties, but so if I drop off, it's nothing personal. I still love everybody. Just wanted to make sure everybody knew that. This is going to be a wonderful, positive show tonight. So,
That's right. Pause.
Yes. If you're feeling a little bogged down and with everything going on around you, please tune in and, hopefully we give you a little smile, a little bit of hope.
Little smiles, little hopes. I think Jake is listening because somebody that wasn't me has already posted in the chat room. Let's hope it was Jake.
It's like we lost June.
Uh-oh, June, you lose.
Yep.
Here she is.
Well, I fell off again. Oh my gosh.
You know you're not supposed to drink that much before the show.
Oh Lord, yes. I have a feeling this might be how it is. So hopefully I won't be saying something profound, and then all of a sudden I disappear.
Yeah. Where'd June go?
We have the wonderful. Yeah, we have the wonderful Cindy with us too tonight. So
yes, we do.
Thank you, Cindy, for joining us with Kevin.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me as always.
And Wendy probably already introduced you guys, but
No, not yet. I haven't.
I was like going, I'm just going to say something.
You weren't gone that long, so.
Okay. I didn't get stuck on the time or.
Right, exactly.
Though when you do fall off, it feels like it feels like I'm gone a lot longer than I really am. I'm trying to scramble to get back.
It's that, that's it exactly, that panic time.
It feels to be separated from your loved ones.
Yes. 5 years went by in those 3 seconds, I swear.
I know. It was. Well, Cindy, why don't we start with you? How are you doing?
I'm doing
everything
pretty
going
good.
on. Yeah.
Pretty good. My travel schedule has just been, has come to a grinding halt, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
With as they say, necessity is the mother of invention. So I have to get a little bit more innovative. And I think that's, there's a silver lining to every cloud here. So far, at least that's how I feel. Maybe next week I'll be like, the sky is falling down.
Yeah.
It'll be all right,
Yes.
Cindy. We'll make it through. The sun even came out today, so there is that.
Sun in Kansas City. What was it, 87 degrees?
Well, I think it was closer to 70, but
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Because didn't you have 30 yesterday, or was it the day?
That was the day before, I think.
Okay. That's Kansas City for you.
I've been up in Oregon.
So, Kevin, we are in Seattle.
Yes, we are. We got to 50 something today. It was nice and warm.
Did we? I was inside all day.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, it was in the upper 50s, I believe. So yeah, it was a good one. So
what about you, Kevin? How about you? How have you been dealing with everything?
How am I feeling? Most of the time I'm feeling perfectly fine. This is what's really funny. I posted this on my page that this whole thing has been a non-event for me. For about the last 9 years, I have commuted a few feet to my work. I've worked from home all this time. And in the last year and a half, Todd also works from home. So this is really hasn't been a big change for us at all. We're pretty much, we're at home. We do not go out as, we used to, make a couple of times a weekend we would go out, but we're not doing that. So we're saving money, I guess, is about the only thing we can point to
Yeah.
positively there. But yeah, it's been, I mean, we look at people that are used to commuting, and they have a tremendous difference in their lives. And I woke
Yep.
up this morning where we live. We're kind of in a central area, but it's pretty quiet. It's not a noisy neighborhood at all. And I woke up this morning and it just dawned on me that it is like dead quiet. There's not anything making noise. And that was to me, that was interesting, because it just seemed like we had turned a corner. So otherwise we're doing great. So
Oh,
and
She just
we lost
was playing
again.
Papa Weasel again.
Yeah.
here I am again. Oh my
Ta-da!
gosh.
Whee!
Okay,
Here we
I
are.
try not to move here.
There you go.
I accidentally moved. So
Guys, I did want to say that the song that played when right before the opening played, that was Afterlife by it's Pete Orbia's band, which is,
yes.
let me see, Rocksteady Cosmonaut, and the full album comes out on April 1st and is called The Sleeper Awakens. So I snagged that when I saw his posting, and it's some pretty good music. It's different, but I
That's
really like
awesome.
it. Mm-hmm.
Wendy
That's
always
really
has great
awesome.
taste.
Yes, that is true. Big time. Because I was like,
Interesting.
yeah, Wendy's music is very, very good.
Well,
Yeah.
thank
Always like,
you.
I need your playlist. Yes. It's very nice. I
I
really
can send
like
that.
It's very cool. Yes, Pete is, he does almost all things in Port Gamble, Washington. So he sets up, just about everything. I think wedding planning and ghost tours and ghost walks. And I mean, he's a man about town in that place. So if you ever check out Port Gamble, go to portgamble.com. It also has the hauntings website too. So you can find out about all the ghost stories there. So it's pretty awesome. Pretty amazing.
Good.
So I'm sorry. You
That's
guys
okay.
just
Jake
I like
says
Wendy's
we're sounding
shirt.
good.
What is
And
that?
welcome
Peace,
back.
love, and dogs on your shirt, right?
Yes, peace, love, and
Peace,
muddy
love,
paws.
and joy.
Muddy paws.
Yep.
Aw, that's awesome.
That they like
we
to
also
step
want
all over my feet.
Aw.
we also want to say welcome back to our Jake. He was
Yes.
suffering on a tropical island and looking
Oh.
for Bigfoot.
Aw. Welcome back, Jake.
Yes.
Yes, after his grueling assignment in South Africa, looking for the COVID-19 infected Bigfoot that was allegedly spotted down there, Jake took a brief vacation in the Seychelles, and should I have said that online? Sorry, bud. Okay, Jake had an awesome relaxation trip after that, so we're happy he got back.
Very happy.
Wow.
He's put himself on self-quarantine for a while till after,
Mhm.
after being on that plane for so long.
Mhm.
So, but we really missed him.
Well, alrighty, guys. Shall we hop on into our show then? We've got a couple of fantastic divination practitioners. How's that? I talk to the dogs all day. Sometimes my big words get a little lost and confused. But Cindy Mckean of Kansas City Tarot, Astrology and Tarot, and Kevin Walder, the Oracle Scroll, and kevinwalder.com.
Mhm.
Welcome, you two.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Officially.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Would you
so-
like to introduce yourselves a little bit? Tell us a little bit about yourselves, and then we can
please.
go on to the main topics, if you like,
Mhm.
or not.
Kevin, please.
You know me, I'm pretty easy about it. So,
So, Cindy, you
Feel
going
free,
first?
Oh, no, you. Oh, it's up to you. Yeah, go. I mean, you're
I
the
can
headliner here, so
Oh.
yeah.
Well, my name is Kevin Walder, and I have Well, I've been on a spiritual awakening since the middle of the 90s. And it dovetailed into learning about divination, and I became fascinated with it right away. I always say that the very first tool that I ever picked up was a pendulum, and it worked immediately, which I didn't expect. It was amazing to me. But I was always fascinated with the cards. I had a friend who read runes, and so I got exposed to that right away. And I tried making my own runes, and I took all my stuff and I dropped it in her lap, and I said, okay, I've got an immense respect for people who make these. It was not an easy project. And I had to have help. So, but I bought my very first tarot deck from a store that had a nice display so I could touch all the cards. And those of you who know tarot, it was the Heindel deck that I picked up. Now that was my very first deck, which the Heindel deck is not a first deck for anybody. I'm sorry, it's way too complicated, and the art is just, it's for more advanced readers. So I was just genuinely lost for a while, but I finally did find a way to read for myself. And then I began to read for other people, and 20 years later, here I am, still doing it. I love the tarot. I've written 2 books about the tarot. The Tarot for Lunch, Lessons from the Cards, and then the 22 Teachers book, which is newer. I guess it's a year old now. I just found that on my list.
Oh my.
Yeah, it's already a year old.
Awesome.
So, and I'm an artist and a writer, and I do all kinds of other things. So that's pretty much my story.
You have some great paintings. I haven't seen your paintings in a while, but I remember going to see you at the fair, or was it an outdoor market?
I've done both, so
a couple times. I see your really wonderful paintings. Really nice.
Thank you. I miss doing those shows. It's really it's a lot of fun, but is it a lot of work?
No, I bet.
Yeah, it's you sleep really well after one of those weekends.
I'm sure you do.
So,
well, Cindy,
that's my story.
What about your story, Cindy?
Well, I'm someone who travels quite a lot. I love science and I love mysticism, and I'm very curious about people. And I've been very lucky, and I've had all those elements in my life since I was younger. And with travel, I got to see more facets of mysticism in general. And somehow, some way, I ended up being in Kansas City. And I ended up starting a business where I do astrology, tarot, mediumship, pendulum readings. I like to keep it pretty wide and open, just because sometimes it's like different tools for different questions or different types of truths that people seek. Mm-hmm. So I've known Wendy now for about almost 3 years. So
I think it's probably closer to 6, isn't it?
I don't know. I lose track of time.
Well,
it's been a while.
It was a few wonderful years anyway.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, sure. Thank you for agreeing to come on tonight.
Thank you. Oh, can I put a plug in to where you could reach me?
Oh, gosh, yeah, please.
Yeah. My website is www. That's all right. www.kansascityastrology.com, and my phone number is 816-895-2545, and I do readings by phone. This happens to be one of the things, that's the only way I offer readings, because I travel a lot unless I happen to be the same city as you are. So feel free to book online. Thank you.
Do you do a lot of them by Skype or regular phone?
Most of them are by regular phone. Usually Skype is for people that are more proficient with Skype, or international
Okay.
clients. Yeah, I've
Understood.
been there, huh? Yeah.
Now, I'm sure Jake is dropping links into everybody's websites and everything like that, because he's good that way.
Yes, he is. I saw some stuff he did last time. It was very nice.
Hmm. No, that was me
Oh,
last
that
time.
was you. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was nice.
Sure. All righty then. Well, I mean, we had started out with a really good conversation about how going out and seeing everybody just reacting in fear and just mass confusion and hysteria, and as they say, the dogs and cats living together,
Mhm.
the whole bit. Human sacrifice, dogs and
Right.
cats living together. Mhm. But anyway, shall we just kind of pick up there and see where we go?
Well, if I may, I had put together some thoughts, and as I told you, Wendy, earlier, when we were trying to figure out what kind of a subject matter, it was,
Right.
things changing so quickly, it's hard to nail it down because every day there's something new that we have to consider. But I was reflecting on it a bit, and this is something I enjoy doing. I know June does too. Is put yourself back in history. Take yourself and put yourself in a historical setting. So if we go back to the beginning of the 20th century, not this one, but the one before,
Mhm.
there was huge societal change taking place all around everyone at that point in time. No one had a firm, secure kind of existence because people were moving from farms into the cities. We were moving from agrarian to industrial society, and people were they were uprooting themselves to put themselves hopefully in a better position.
Right.
Then we had the two world wars within a generation or two generations perhaps, but they were really close together. That
Mhm.
didn't give populations a chance to recover. And so then we introduced the female workforce, a
Mhm.
totally unheard of situation for women to work outside the home.
Right.
And then, of course, when those men came back, or some of them did at least, the women weren't ready to give up their jobs and go back to just being the subservient housewife anymore. They
Right.
wanted to stay there and keep doing what they were doing.
Yep.
So this, I mean, literally, if you think about it, that whole world was turned upside down. No one really knew where they belonged anymore. And that is precisely where we are right now. We haven't recognized it yet totally, but that's precisely where we are right now. Because when we come through this whole thing, nothing is going to go back to where it used to be. Everything is going to be shifted and changed. The people who are now sitting at home working on their computers that their laptop that they got to take home, they're not going to go willingly back to the office. It's going to be hard to entice them to do that. So there's going to be some changes, major changes in the way we do business, in the way we do everything. And our work is going to change probably more than anything. So, Cindy talked about doing readings by phone, and that's pretty much what I do.
Okay.
I do an occasional event where I'll do, now is that squeak coming from me? No. Okay, I heard a squeak.
I don't hear a squeak. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Now
That's June
Kevin's
popping in and out.
It is me.
It's probably
It's my pacemaker.
I was gonna say, now Kevin's going to be ultra paranoid because
I
he
am
has to make sure
totally paranoid about
all the sound is
audio.
perfect this time.
Audio quality has to be good.
You're good. It sounds great, Kevin. You sound
Okay.
wonderful.
Yes.
I do all my readings by phone or on Zoom. I like doing Zoom because then I get a chance to see you while I'm doing the reading, and that's helpful to both of us actually. But yeah, I like doing that too. It's the ultimate way to. I mean, what safer way can we get together? So it's perfect.
Right.
So yeah, the questions then is I think what we're probably what are we doing to prepare ourselves for what's coming, and how do we influence that? How do we take this opportunity to create what we really wanted in place of what we had? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And those are big questions. Those are questions you don't often get a chance to even ponder because you get busy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
Yep.
happened. So
now
I
we have
don't,
all the time in the world, and
yeah.
there we are. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Well, and
exactly.
the thing that I get from that is it'll all be over so soon that
Maybe.
make the most of it.
Mhm.
I can't remember if I used this already, but um, I had a friend who was laid off from a job she loved. She was a union checker at a grocery store. She loved that job.
Okay.
She got laid off because of union not superiority, seniority.
Yeah.
Seniority.
Mhm.
One of the stores closed and they combined everybody, and so she was out of a job. She went into total panic.
Oh
She
no.
looked for a job. I mean, she set an example for everybody on filling out that paperwork for the unemployment.
Mhm.
6 weeks later, she got called back to work full time. So it was like, you could have taken a vacation. You could have
Right.
enjoyed that
Right.
6 weeks.
Done something.
But
Yeah.
instead, so I guess that's the point we have to really be, are we making good use of this gift we've been given? Because we're going to have to look at it that way. We can call it a lockdown or an opportunity. And I think it's best to look at it as an opportunity. So,
Absolutely.
and that's, when relating everything to the tarot, I talk about the tower in a case like this, because it's major change,
Mhm.
complete change, but there are so many positive sides to it as well. I mean, well, I gave an example once of the newer stadiums now in Seattle. We had the Kingdom for decades, and the only way we
Okay.
got the new stadiums was to implode the Kingdom. Well, that's what
Oh.
we're doing right now. We're cleaning up the mess so that we can
Mhm.
create what we need and what we want. And that's where the tower comes in. That's the energy of that card is clear.
I would have thought death, but yeah, I guess either one is very apt in that.
Well, this one is because I get more the tower energy because it's coming from an outside force. It's not
Oh,
something
okay.
it's not something that originated from within.
Mhm.
It's like there's an influence from outside that is causing everything to feel like it's being taken away and destroyed. So
Mhm.
And it does feel very sudden,
It
yes,
does.
like a
Yeah,
bolt
I
from the
agree.
blue.
Mhm.
yes, yeah. So that's kind of how I'm looking at this whole thing, is listening to the tower and the energy of the tower. I always say it is not catastrophic, but it is cataclysmic. There's a difference. It is not total destruction, even though there's a lot of destruction happening, but think of it as clearing. It's demolition. You're getting things ready for the new. And, let's face it, change is the scariest thing that any human will ever do. And
Indeed.
that is, to me, that's just that's normal everyday life. We have to get through that fear and realize that it's just change. It's just change. So that's where I'm looking at things at from that standpoint. So
Okay.
go ahead.
Cindy?
Yeah, well, it's very apropos that a lot of the outbreak, when it started coming to the United States, happened in Mercury retrograde in Pisces. Pisces is ruled by Neptune. Neptune is rather hazy, and this virus seems to be invisible. And right now, astrologically, what we have going on is 4 planets in a stellium. That means they're grouped together very closely. And that's the Sun, Pluto, Jupiter, and Mars. So Pluto and Jupiter are outer planets. The Sun is the here and now. Mars is the combative type of planet, and it brings combative energy. It brings death as well. So does Pluto. Saturn represents government. It also represents restrictions. And it's happening in the Sun, which is vitality. So there's change in government through disease, through death, through shaking of these structures. All of this happening together is, I mean, it's kind of like pushing something to the edge of a cliff and then wondering why there's so much damage when it finally goes over the threshold. So something had to give, and it seems like it's a very timely moment that it happens.
Yeah, I agree.
Fit right in.
So
yeah,
we just had in our last meeting, our Zoom meeting, we had a friend of ours who's an astrologer, and she presented that whole plot that she had put out and talked about those 4 planets being clustered there, and and it was also in our neighborhood anyway. It was in the 4th house, I believe. So it was, what is 4th house, Cindy? You'll know. I'm not the astrologer.
Your home, your foundation, where you rest your head at night.
Okay, so that was appropriate that it was like, it's shaking up your house. It's like you're in the middle of an earthquake here, people.
Yeah.
And some places literally, again.
Yeah, oh no, I just saw that too, yeah. So.
That's interesting because, yes, that affected you at home. And then I think in New York, it was the 6th house, which was healthcare and services to other. And look what's happening as that becomes the new epicenter. And, you know, New York being so business oriented and all this hospitality and, hotels are shutting, these big chain hotels are shutting down. It's amazing to see.
Yep. We have a question, a couple of questions, I think, in the chat. Let's see, from Benjamin. And I think I spoke to Benjamin earlier. He's part of the Kansas City Wiccans, Pagans, and other people there group. I used to tweet things from readings. Would posting your results be something you'd do? And he thinks that's to Kevin.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Posting reading results.
Posting reading results.
Right, on Twitter.
On Twitter?
He posts his,
I don't use Twitter. I have an account, but it's been dormant for so long. I'm sorry. I get excited about some technology, but not all of it. I used to write a column for a local paper that was basically, it was, people would write in questions and I would do a 3-card pull based on what their information was. So I've done something like that. It just probably won't show up on Twitter. It would be something more on Facebook or YouTube video or something. But,
nice.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, let's see. A couple of other questions for Cindy. You mentioned pendulum readings. What does that entail?
Well, a pendulum is, it could be made of anything. I mean, you could even take like a washer and a string. You could take rods. And what you do is you follow the energy with that. And you look at the energy, you look at, where the energy is flowing, and it gives you answers either on a pre-made board if you have like a fan chart, or a little bit of an altar if you have an altar set up, or if you're looking, like for instance with pendulums or dowsing, they used to use dowsing rods to find water and just follow which way the stick or the rod would turn. So that's how you use it to find answers. And that's pretty much the accompaniment of the pendulum, is you follow the energy and it gives you the answers.
Looks like you might concur, Kevin.
Oh, I would agree. Yes.
Okay.
I have
cool.
all those toys and tools as well, and it's they are fun to use at times. So, and I use
Yeah.
my pendulum quite a lot as well. So.
Nice. You can say I only ever use dowsing rods. Well, in their more native form of brazing rods, when I was putting big piping joints together, copper joints together, and I had to weld them together with that.
Okay.
I don't know that I read anything in it except don't leak.
Yeah.
Okay, another, this is for both of you. Some people use tarot cards and others use oracle cards that look a bit different. Is there really a difference?
Oh, yes. I'll jump on that one.
Okie dokie.
A tarot deck, by definition, is a 78 card deck. And there are specific designations for each of those. And you'll find loads and loads of variations in that form. Most of them are based on Rider-Waite. That's probably the Rider-Waite clones are the most populous out there, but there are other ones that don't adhere to that system at all. Some that are based on Thoth, some that are based on oh gosh, I can never remember that deck. I don't know why. Anyway, there's a more modern deck that is that's one that a lot of people like to use, that doesn't follow the same format as the Rider-Waite. But yeah, 78 cards, it makes it a tarot deck, as long as it has the 22 major arcanas and so forth, the court cards and all that. An oracle card deck can be any number from 30 to 70 cards. They can be any number of cards, and they are specific to that deck. The artwork will be specific to them, and the designation of their meaning will be specific to them. Where with the tarot, there are some set meanings, but people like me we're screwing with that. So
our own interpretations, that's understandable. Yeah.
Yes, there's definitely a difference between them.
Cool. I thought there was, but I didn't even think to ask that one. Thanks, Benjamin. All right, also from Benjamin, if there is a spiritual plan for your life, basing the course of your life on random card arrangements would be impossible. So tarot cards would have to work, but how would you make your readings positive?
Okay. Well, first of all readings aren't positive.
No, not at all.
Simply not. In fact, I've said that several times, that when, like, I'll go to an event. I went to an event about 6 or 8 years ago. I can't remember now. At a town nearby, and I did probably 15 readings that day, and every single one of them, with one exception, there was one exception, but most all of them were just, heavy. I had to tell someone her marriage was over. I had to tell someone that she was there to try to find out about a financial arrangement that was falling through, and yes, it's going to continue to fall through. It was like every single message I had to deliver was like, duh. And it makes you feel so drained when you get done with a day like that. But, oops, I went away.
Oh,
and there you are.
Right there. Okay. I can still, okay.
Oh, Skype, isn't it fun?
So much fun.
So yeah, they're not all positive. But if you're trying to find your spiritual, oh gosh, I just did a program on that. I call it authenticity, and you use the tarot to find who you are, as far as, what's your core value? What is it that makes you tick? And then you move into, why are you here in this incarnation? What brought you back this time? and then I work with all the major arcana cards. So yes, there are ways to make your message positive as far as what you're trying to put together, but you don't want to ignore the warnings. They're going to be sprinkled in there too. So pay attention to all of it. I don't know if that answered that question, but
I think it did. Yeah, because that it was a little different, a different question. I don't know that you could ever plot your whole life by the tarot cards. I mean, you know, in one sitting. It's just not feasible in my head, but maybe somebody else does have that kind of faith in it. I don't know. I don't.
Well,
there's too many variables that can come into life.
Exactly. Well, and you have to always allow for your own freedom too, your own conscious thought, your own ability to change your mind. So
right. Exactly. Yes.
Your free will is in there. Yeah. What I always say about a reading, though, is I describe it as a snapshot. It is a snapshot of what is going on right now, and it will indicate to you what will probably happen if you keep doing what you're doing right now. That doesn't mean you can't change it.
Right.
So
exactly.
So you might have to take a few of those snapshots throughout your life.
A question from Bill Wooten is, does a pendulum have to be consecrated in some way if you make it yourself?
Who wants to do that one?
I don't think you have to consecrate it. I mean, I've never done that. I mean, what I've done is, you know, you could use your body as a pendulum, and you could use that to feel where is there heaviness or lightness on one side or another. You would know if the pendulum worked with you just by simply asking it a question, and it would either rotate clockwise or counterclockwise. Sometimes it rotates, it moves sideways or forwards and backwards. If it doesn't move at all, then you know you're not connected with it, or you're going to have to try to establish a connection. But I don't think you'd really have to consecrate it, but I'm not saying that you don't have to either. I'm sure everybody has their methods. I don't know if Kevin, do you consecrate yours?
I don't consecrate anything that I work with, to be quite honest. I don't know that to me, it's not necessary. But now, with that being said, if it feels necessary to you, then by all means do it. And there are a number of ways of doing that, whether it be in the full moon, using incense, or some other cleansing kind of ritual to consecrate your tool. You can definitely do that. Now, you mentioned as part of your question was if you made it yourself, and isn't making it yourself a form of consecration? As you're doing that work, putting your intent into it, seems to me that's more powerful than anything you might, incantation you might say over it after it's done. So put your intent into it as you're working, and that should consecrate it completely.
I would think so too.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same way with the cards. You're putting your own energies, your own back and forth. They come from the cards and back to the cards, I would imagine.
Right.
Okay.
And I don't believe in giving anything more power than it deserves.
Right.
Everything that I use is a tool, and it can be used for good or evil. I mean, everything that we encounter. So it's the intent, and it really. I don't look at the cards as having any special power of their own. It's whatever I give it at any given moment. So, sorry, I'm getting a little tickle in my throat here.
Oh, that's okay. Allergies are strong.
Yeah.
The trees are blooming everywhere.
Yeah, here especially, we're really getting them.
Okay, Jake. Any other questions in the other chat? My phone would have howled, so that's what.
Oh.
It's not the children of the night that are going to and fro from my room. All right. Well, how would you set up a reading for someone looking to heal through these kind of crazy, scary times?
I heard that.
Oh, wow. Talk about synchronicity. You say scary
Exactly.
times, and there you go, your sound effects.
Perfect.
Okay.
I
Nope,
think
we
the
answered
first
all
thing,
of them.
Answered all. Okay.
Jake says, talk amongst yourselves.
Okay. So how would you, so your question again was, how would you set up a reading for someone who's
Looking, right now is scared and just kind of looking for anything at all right now, any kind of guidance, any kind of lifeline almost with as wild as people are getting. I'm not, it'll pass one way or the other. And we'll rebuild. I guess that's just the old European in me or something.
Yeah, I can understand that. It's well, I always try to remove myself from the reading as much as possible, and that's what I said. I demonstrated. I don't know if I showed you last time the no spread, what I call my no spread.
I don't
remember that one. If you don't remember it, then I didn't show it to you, I'm sure.
Okay, yeah. Let's see this no spread.
The no spread, and I'm sorry to make all that noise in your ear, but I just did.
Oh, that's not bad. It's not at all like the sheets rustling right in the microphone.
It was right on top of the microphone, and I couldn't hear it on my end. That was the weird part.
That's how you usually know it's you.
I didn't know that it was making that noise. So what I do with the no spread is I take one stack of cards. I just take the whole deck and I begin to pull cards. And I pull cards until I get to the very first, the very first major arcana card. So what I've done right now is I have pulled the Empress. We talked about her the last time I was here.
Yes, we did.
So,
now,
yeah.
If I could, which deck do you use? And I bet Jake will be pulling out all kinds of examples of it for us in chat.
This is the Legacy of the Divine Tarot, and it's by Cyril Marchetti. So that's the deck I go to. So the Empress. And that is the first card I pulled, and that becomes the plot to the story. That is going to lay the groundwork for this entire reading. And what a perfect card for something hopeful coming out of a situation. The Empress, she's the ultimate mother. She's there to look after everybody and everything, and to make sure everybody's going to be okay. And I think that's the biggest problem everybody has. Nobody knows who's going to be okay.
Right. Yeah.
We're kind of afraid none of us are going to be okay. And so that's the part that makes it a little difficult. So yeah, the Empress that's a perfect plot to your story. It's recovery, recuperation, birth,
nurturing.
Yep.
The whole nine yards there.
Exactly. So then next to that, I draw cards from the deck, just start from the top of the deck, and I draw until I get to the first court card.
Okay.
And I'm drawing and drawing and drawing. There we go. Okay. So this is the card I got, which is the Knight of Coins.
Ooh, he looks fierce.
He can be, but he is a warrior. He's not there to pamper anybody, that's for sure. He's there to take care of business, get things moving. His ultimate concern is the welfare of his charge, which is the royal family and the realm. So he is especially interested in making sure everyone is safe. And because he's of the coin suit, he has everything to do with the physical side of life, which is money, home, and health.
Okay.
All right. We're all concerned about health right now.
Oh, yeah.
And what this card is, the energy of this card is just saying that sometimes you have to fight your own battle. Sometimes you have to take it in your own hands to get what you need. And even in our healthcare system, which is sometimes deficient, that's we have to work with.
Excuse me.
I can only say that because June's not on. But anyway.
So does that mean fighting for what you need, like medicine or toilet paper or foods or whatever?
It could very well be, yeah.
All
just
of the above.
Sure that you are planning and taking care of. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean, bludgeoning someone. It just means that you're doing your part to plan and take care of things to make sure you are protected and taken care of. So, yeah. So then after I've pulled those two, which now the Knight of Coins, that's the main character. That's the character you're going to play in this story. Okay. So your destiny is to look after everyone, to be the ultimate mother, and by golly, and this fits perfectly because that if you stand between a mother and her children, you're in danger. Yes. It doesn't matter if it's a human or an animal. You better watch out. So
I've had to address that a couple times before. Yes.
So yeah, there you are with the Knight of Coins. Then I lay out 7 cards that tell the story. So your numeral cards they'll be the narrative.
Okay.
The cards will give you the narrative. If we get another court card like this Knight of Wands, then that becomes another aspect of your personality that needs to come to bear in order to. So you're going to be fighting a lot here. And if we get another one of the major arcana cards, that's a plot twist.
Okay. Now, was that justice?
That was justice, yeah.
Okay.
So, and we got a couple of plot twists in here. So we start off, the very first card on the left is the Page of Coins, which when you put that next to this Knight of Coins, the page, and that is another aspect of you that you have to bring to bear. The page says, relax a little bit. It's yes, it's going to be a little struggle, but it's just a planning struggle. We've been lucky enough because we live in a very small town. We've been able to buy toilet paper.
Nice.
We've been able to do whatever. I mean, we've pretty much been able to shop as normal. Now, there's nothing in the flour and the rice seem to be all gone, and nobody quite knows why. But those kinds of things. But other than that, it's pretty normal for us. So what this is saying is, relax. Don't get so worked up that you lose sight of what's really important in this whole situation. Then the next card is a plot twist, which is the Faith card. That's the Hierophant in most decks. And the Hierophant...
Okay, because I didn't remember seeing Faith before, but I understand,
So, and if I start to ramble, stop me, okay?
No, you're doing great, thanks.
So the Faith card, I call the Hierophant the frenemy of the deck. It's there to provide some comfort. It's there to be the open arms and welcome, but you got to follow the rules. So my perfect example of this is when we were kids and we moved away from home, whether it was to go to school or go away to work, but we moved away from home for the very first time. We experienced that. And then, oh, whatever, we had to move back home for whatever reason. And it was wonderful. When we showed up at home, we had a hot meal on the table. We had a warm, clean bed to sleep in. We even had a little cash that we could borrow. But about a week later, it's like, get me the hell out of here. I can't take this anymore.
Right.
Right? Been there.
Mhm.
Okay, that's the energy of the Hierophant. The Hierophant will promise you anything, but the story with this card, what I always say is, be sure that the price that you're being offered is the price you're willing to pay.
Right. Right.
Okay, so if those rules
what
are
you're trading for. Mhm.
exactly, and
Mhm.
everybody is in that process of trading. We're all in
Yep.
business.
Indeed, we are.
So, and then the next card is another aspect of yourself. It's the Knight of Wands. So not only are you going to be fighting for your right to live, basically, that's where we started with the Knight of Coins, but
Mhm.
the Knight of Wands is all about your fire, your passion, that one thing that you have ignored for way too long in your life. The thing that has been on the back shelf and needs to be brought forward, whether it's a writing project or an art project or exploring your music or whatever it is. That is
Nobody wants that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know the feeling. So, but that's the energy of that card is bring that forward. And how are you going to bring that into your life? And that's a perfect way. Start to think about the things that you've been putting off.
Mhm.
This is the perfect time to dust them off and see if they're still viable. I mean, there are some things you may never want to do, but others that you might, oh, wow, I forgot I could do that, or I forgot I knew how.
Right. Mhm.
Okay. But in the middle of the whole thing is the Two of Coins. And the Two of Coins, it's a guy riding a bicycle on a high wire. So,
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. One of those great big wheels too
yep,
on the
the
bicycle.
old-fashioned one.
Mhm.
And it's all about balance. The Two of Coins, and that's physical balance, making sure that we're taking care of ourselves as best we can. And doesn't that fit this
Oh
situation?
yes. Mhm.
So, and that may mean, sequestering ourselves away from everybody else. It may mean lots of different, we don't know what adjustments are going to be thrown at us next, really.
Right. Right.
So next to that, I have the Eight of Coins, or excuse me, of Cups. Cups are emotions, emotional attachments, and all the things that go with that, relationships. And the
Mhm.
Eight is a launching card. So this card in this position at this point in the reading, what that's coming through is saying, what relationship needs mending in your life right now? And that is where you need to focus your attention, mending those relationships that have some of them have just suffered from lack of attention.
Right.
Some of them are broken, understood,
Mhm.
but some of them are just lack of attention. And you can fix that very easily. So then the next plot twist
Oh
is the
no.
magician. It's a good one. The magician's a good one.
Mhm.
And that one is saying, get in touch with your inner magic. And all of that ties right back into this story because
Mhm.
you are going to be pulling your passions and your motivations. You're going to be pulling those things together and mixing it with a generous serving of your own magic to make it happen. So you're not just looking out for everybody else anymore. You're actually you're looking at the big picture. And that includes you along with everyone around you. And then the last card in the draw is the Justice card.
Uh-oh.
Oh, that's okay. It's all about
No, I'm kidding. Yeah.
more about balance. Just restore
Yeah.
balance.
Right. Right.
And that'll be kind of something we'll end up with at the end. when we have to restore the balance.
Right.
When everybody finally has to start setting their alarms again. Those are things that, that are going to happen. But with the Justice card, it always, to me, is an indicator that you may want to just double check, make sure everything's settled and taken care of on a legal footing. Okay, it could be something as simple as a parking ticket, but it's hanging fire. So
or driving with expired tags. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't do that. It'll be much more peaceful for you if you don't.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And that's a no spread. I use this one for myself because what it does when I do the story, it actually removes me from it enough that I'm just looking at the story, and then I can apply it. I don't try to figure out each card and its position and how it applies to me at that particular time. So I love the spread because it works so well. Now, and I do not know if I invented it or not, because there are so many of them on the internet that somebody else probably has one just like it, but this is mine.
I wasn't at all familiar with it. Cindy?
No, I haven't. I love it.
Yep.
So that's my story. That's how I would do it.
Ooh, nice. I hope everybody was taking notes and paying attention. Now, I do have a couple of questions if you guys want a couple more questions.
Sure.
Okie dokie. Audience question. The cards show things from different angles and changing times. It would seem more crucial for people than it would have been in a long time, and doing readings over the phone is more important. Have you experienced more calls? So I guess, have you experienced more calls?
Kevin?
Well, it comes and goes. So I don't know that I've necessarily picked up more calls. I'm not picking up new clients right now, but that's just, that's kind of where I am. But yeah, I don't know. What's your experience, Cindy?
Things just went radio silent for 3 straight days in a row, which is extremely unusual. Yeah. And then it started with a slow trickle, and all of a sudden it just started, going back to similar to what it was before everything halted. I think people are still adjusting. People had to run out and, I think the media makes it out as if they go to the store in one haul, but I really don't think they do. Just judging from, the state of some of the shelves in the supermarkets. I know, Kevin, you said you were in a small town. It sounds like people are a lot more calmer and a lot more nicer and considerate, whereas it just feels like, they're buying from themselves and, their extended family of 15 or 20 or something. So, yeah, it's, that's, I don't know if I answered the question or if I totally diverted there.
No, I think you did. Sounds like it. But yeah, it's, and I say we're really lucky because of the little place where we are. And they aren't all that nice, actually, but they're quiet. They're retired.
There we go. Get off my lawn and be quiet about it.
Exactly.
Okay. From Jen Wilkins, is it possible to combine astrology with tarot in a reading?
Oh, go for it, Sandy.
Yes, it is. Yeah. And I always describe it kind of like if you're, say you go to the doctor with a cough, and how apropos is it nowadays to go to a doctor with a cough, right? But
right.
So what it is that it's kind of like you could get diagnosed several different ways. And, after they do the physical exam, say they could do like an x-ray of your chest. That's one layer. That's using one tool. And they could even get down to a little bit more detail by, say, doing a sputum exam and seeing exactly what kind of organism might be causing, your illness. And it's kind of like that with with using astrology and tarot is that it gets down to the bottom of the question with a little bit more thoroughness and looking at it from different angles. So someone might say they might ask something about a job prospect, and I could look at their natal chart with their transits and say, I see Jupiter that's coming up around the midheaven, the top of the chart, which would represent a career point. And Jupiter is the planet of bounty, of expansion, of benevolence, good luck. I would say, yeah, it looks like you're going to get this new job and it's going to come with a lot of money. And then I could pull the cards to see what kind of people they'd be working with, the kind of environment, smaller things that they should look out for. So that's what I mean about, yes, you could do it at the same time, and how much more depth, how many more layers it brings to the reading.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I would agree with that totally. And numerology is another aspect that can be introduced. It plays along with the cards. So absolutely. I enjoy using numerology as well with my readings. And I always advertise my readings are gluten-free.
Very good.
That gets me lots of traffic.
And I've combined pendulum with the tarot too. And once I was giving a talk at the Dowsing Society in Kansas City. And it was kind of funny because I was telling them about one of my specialties in astrology is relocation astrology. In other words, the energy lines that you live closest, the planetary lines that you live closest to, will color your social environment or your life under that line. And I was telling them how I lived close to a Pluto line in Kansas City, and the themes of Pluto being death, shutdowns, endings, darkness, things like that. And I was using the pendulum, showing them how I use the pendulum to sometimes pick cards. So I went over the deck and, it swung over one card and hovered there. So I pulled the card and it was death. Death is represented by Pluto. And I was getting into explaining the correlations between the tarot, astrology, and then boom, the lights went out.
No.
It was very synchronous, but
yeah,
it goes to show you that you could actually use many, just like Kevin was saying, how he uses more than one method, like astrology with tarot with numerology, and I'm sure your intuition, just tapping in, is another thing, that I kind of use these tools as amulets, not just reading only them. You have to really listen to the rest of the messages. And Kevin, it sounds like you do that too with the tarot. Instead of sticking to, the 2 or 3 paragraph definitions and descriptions, it becomes more personal to you and talks a lot more, I think, per card, correct?
Absolutely. I in fact, my first book, which Tarot for Lunch, is the first three or four chapters are my class that I teach on tarot, and I am very clear in that I teach a way of reading tarot. I do not teach the way of doing anything. And one thing that I've always made really a top priority is to make sure that every student understands that no matter what that little white book tells you, you don't have the whole story until you have actually visited the card. And that includes, you putting your intent and listening to what it's telling you. Because every time you pull a card, it will show you something different. The circumstance will show you something, a different color or a different symbol or a different emblem. There will be all kinds of variations in the artwork that each time you pull it, you're going to notice some. And that's where your story is when you notice what it is that's leading you in the direction of your answer. And that's another thing I'd like to talk about with tarot.
Please.
First of all, I am adamantly opposed to the idea of using tarot just to find answers. I think finding answers is probably the worst thing you can do with a tarot deck. Let's find better questions. Okay? Think about that for a moment. If you, we just had a conversation about Wendy's shirt and what it said. So she showed us and read us what it said. Done. Questions answered. We can go home and play video games. We don't need to answer. We don't have to follow up any further.
Right.
But if we had asked a different question in a different way, and Wendy had said, well, why don't you think of it this way or that way? And maybe this emblem means this. And she gave you other ways of looking at your same question that caused you to reformulate your question. It keeps you focused. It keeps you working. It keeps you moving. And so to me, refining our question is a much more practical exercise than just getting an answer. Because getting an answer, we can do that. But refine the question so we really get to the bottom of what it is we're seeking. That's the real value and tool. So.
We're drawing it out of the person you're talking to, or them drawing it out of you, though, or both. Drawing more detail, more depth, more.
The question is coming out of the card. You're actually drawing the energy, and it's causing you to reformulate your question.
Okay.
So yeah, it's probably about some energy from all three, actually. So yeah, I never thought of it.
Absolutely, yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. And where do we go from here?
Well, I wrote down some stuff I was talking about from my book. About the tower, and using that as our introduction. One of the things I said about the tower and letting the tower describe itself, it says, I may be noisy and brash, but I'm not the source of your apprehension. I simply deliver the circumstance and the timing for a major shift, and you decide how you're going to accept it or not. And you know what? Not accepting it is not, it's not going to help, because change is going to happen no matter what. And that's another thing I was thinking about today earlier. Did anybody here ever see the book, and him rustling papers again, ever see the book, Who Moved My Cheese?
I don't believe I have.
I think I read it. I did read it years and years ago, but I don't remember much of it.
It's years and years ago. It's a tiny little thing. It'll take you 2 hours to read, if that. But it was written by the man, and I don't remember the names again. Don't hold me to that. But it was written by the man who wrote The 1 Minute Manager. And it's a story about 4 little beings. 2 of them are mice, and 2 of them are kind of little miniature humans. And they all they lived on cheese. So they had built their homes near the cheese. And they went to the cheese every single day, and they got their cheese. They went home. Then the cheese ran out. Well, the little mice took off immediately. As soon as the cheese ran out, they went to find more cheese. The little humanoids, they struggled with it horribly. They tried to figure out how they could get the cheese back, who they could sue, or it was just horrible, because they weren't going to give up their home, because that was near where the cheese had been. So the whole point of it was, how do you adapt to change? And if you're near a half-price books, whenever they open up again, do they have those there?
Yes, they do.
Do you?
In Kansas City, yeah.
Yeah.
There's usually a generous number of them on the shelf for practically nothing, because they are, they're all over the place. I've bought probably 30 of them and given them away over the years. Wow. Because it's one of those things that you pick up, and like Cindy was saying, she read it years ago. Read it again, because it'll look totally different to you now, because each time you read it, you are in a different position. Your circumstances have changed. So it's like reading something brand new. But it is an interesting little essay on how you adapt and how you make change work for you, basically. So I don't know, how did I get there?
We went
You
from the
started off
tower
with the tarot,
to
the tower.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Mhm.
Yeah.
so the thing, I guess, with the thing to remember is, this is not happening to us as much as it is happening with us. And we're all in this together. And that, oh boy, that's what I was dealing with earlier today. Unfortunately, in our spiritual community, we're not united. And I'm disturbed by that. I'm disappointed in some of the attitudes that I see and hear. Attitudes such as who's expendable and who's not.
Mhm.
That, to me, I'm sorry, that is not a conversation that we should even be engaging in.
No.
There are no expendable humans. And if we're going to approach it from that standpoint, we've already given up. We've already sacrificed our humanity and our integrity, and it's just, yeah, it's a sad state of affairs. But I see that, and I had it pointed out to me very clearly that someone who basically was repeating stuff they had heard. I mean, it may have been an Alex Jones broadcast for all I know. It sounded like that kind of thing. So
Mhm.
it's difficult. It's difficult to reconcile sometimes, but we have to pull together. There's no way we're going to get through this if we don't.
Right.
So
I agree completely.
yeah.
And right, people who have worked hard their whole lives and sacrificed so much for families and where they're at now and everything, they're not expendable just because they're retired or
Right.
you're not non-productive. You're not. It's just a different phase of life, and man, if you don't listen to the experienced people, you're not very smart.
Well,
Excuse
then they're
me.
not.
In my opinion.
No, I agree with you totally. And in our situation, people aren't listening.
No.
They aren't. I mean, look at the interviews on the beach in Florida. That was just horribly disturbing. But
I did not watch any of those. I refuse to watch. I can't.
mm-hmm.
I start getting too just worked up and overwhelmed.
Yes.
Anybody need
Unplug.
some nitroglycerin?
Yep.
And these are hardly horrible circumstances to be under. It's
Wow.
funny because I hear so many clients, share with me their experiences of, again, it's traumatic for people to go to the supermarkets and see these empty shelves.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was, Wendy knows about this. I was in Hurricane Maria. It looked like a big lawnmower came by and just knocked everything down. And there was no running water. There was no electricity, no communication system. You couldn't call anybody. And people still grouped together and helped each other out, despite, there was a lot of, just horrible things that were going on too, but there was a lot of community happening as well. I don't see that community happening as much under these positive circumstances where we have our communication, we have access to grocery stores and fresh air and, communicating with each other. So I kind of think it's time for people to just kind of roll with it for now, rather than feel they're immune or feel like it's not going to hurt them, but also be smart in discerning information instead of thinking it's going to go away in 2 weeks. Just look at where it's happened ahead of us and see how, come up with a timeline with that. And,
right.
and face it, accept it instead of deny it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a big problem. We've got too much misinformation out there that is misguiding people. So
creating more panic and havoc
oh,
than comfort and assuredness.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I have a theory that the root of every problem we have as human beings began with the belief in a chosen people, a
Yes.
chosen race, a chosen color, a chosen religion, a chosen gender, a chosen orientation, whatever the case is. Whenever you offer that level of superiority to a group, they're going to abuse it. Let's face it, that's human nature. So that's what that's where we are. And that's what I hear when I hear people talking about who's expendable. You know, just as that is that belief in a chosen people is a problem, then by the same token, the belief that some people are not chosen and are expendable, disposable, unnecessary, whatever their case is, that's just as wrong. It doesn't, you know, it's not something. You cannot throw people out, just like your old coffee grounds. So let's see. I had something else that I was going to talk about too.
Okie dokie.
Oh, the temperance card. That's the other card that I think goes with this situation. Anybody else? If I'm rambling, you know.
You're not rambling.
Okay.
No, and I agree. Yeah.
The temperance card. Now, a lot of people, the temperance card, we kind of give it a modern twist, and it comes to mean something like, you know, restraint, and it draws some of its meaning from like the temperance movement, where you were basically forbidden to use particular substances and so forth.
Right.
But this is a word that has matured over many centuries. And when it was first assigned to the card, it had nothing to do with restraint. It was more about tempering. And that goes back to the old saying of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's tempering steel, tempering glass, a process that's done under heat and lots of hammering in the case of the steel to
And
fold.
then quick cooling and
Exactly.
I'm sorry. There's the pipe fitter coming out again.
It's torture.
It is, yeah.
And so that's exactly so. But by that same token, it creates a stronger blade, a stronger edge, a stronger. It gives you something that is much more practical and useful.
Yep.
And so the temperance card is about doing that with ourselves, learning how to bring things together within ourselves that may not even look like they belong at all. And suddenly they create within you something that is so immensely important that you can't walk away from it. You can't ignore it any longer. So, yeah. So I think the temperance card fits in this situation quite a bit, because right now we have the opportunity to do whatever. We can create whatever. So
we can empower our own self-esteem, standing, and help others, thereby increasing theirs as well as your own. You know, just making everybody stronger as you go.
Right. And that's something that seems to be lost in this world, is the fact that if I help you and make you stronger, that does not take away from me.
Right, exactly.
It's we have this, you know, that if I give you anything at all, that it is something I've deprived myself of, and that's simply not true. And that's what we see. Well, we won't go there.
Yeah,
we're not going to talk about it.
No, we could spend years there, but
Oh.
Yeah. So,
like,
but those are. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say today when I first took the dogs out to potty and play a little bit and everything, the neighbor a couple houses down hollers over and asks how we're doing and stay safe, and you wish it back, and just everybody looking out for everybody. It was a very good
Mhm.
feeling.
Oh,
Oh.
did Cindy say she was in Maria in Puerto Rico?
Yes.
Oh no,
No.
I was in the Lesser Antilles.
Oh, okay, okay.
Mhm.
Because
So
I
I was
had a
about
friend who
300.
was
Yeah.
I had a friend who was in Puerto Rico through that period. In fact, they
Oh
got hit. What
my.
was the other hurricane that came about a week before, and they thought, oh,
Irma.
they got through that pretty well, so they were kind of breathing a sigh of relief when they got blindsided by Maria.
I am. Well,
She,
I
It was
like
like that
Cindy's
for us
story.
too. It was,
Mhm.
it was like Irma just missed us, but hit an island that some of our friends were on in St. Martin, and it was just over. I mean, right after the hurricane passed, it was like immediate bloodshed and
uh,
hoarding, and I mean not hoarding, looting and all that stuff.
mm,
Um, yeah, so it was a bit of a surprise when Maria came, and it came a lot more fierce because it just snuck up
right.
and went from like a category 3 to a 5 in like half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think that's part of the shock. That felt like a tower card right there.
Right. No, it would definitely. That's perfect. So.
Mhm.
Well, our friend, she was, like I say, she was in Puerto Rico. They had damage to but their home was still, they could still manage, but they had you know, no supplies. So they were getting water from a neighbor, and another neighbor had sort of a grove of avocados, apparently, because that's pretty much what they lived on was avocados and water for, I mean, weeks. It was at least about 3 weeks before they could get out of there because they had
Mhm.
animals, they had pets and
Mhm.
family that they had to, you know. So it was quite an ordeal. And what a shame! It's still a mess.
Yeah.
It's,
Oh, complete. And then the earthquake struck Puerto Rico a couple,
oh
three different
gosh,
times now,
yeah,
and golly,
yeah,
seriously, come on.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, I like the story Cindy told, and Cindy, you'll have to fill it in. But didn't you have looters that came by to steal the tires off of your four-wheeler, and but they helped you put their yucky bald tires on before they left?
Yeah, that was
Did
a negotiation actually.
Oh,
So
okay, okay.
yeah, so we were able to somehow make a trade, and they took, yeah, tires. So they took it from our ATV, and I'm not sure why they gave us bald tires instead as a swap, but at least we didn't get attacked. And I think one of the
Right.
things that really helped too was that we had a really good water filter that really got rid of, I mean, it got rid of absolutely everything.
mm-hmm,
And it was really hard to get clear water there. And it was hard to get that quality of filtration. So I
mm-hmm.
think that helped us a lot too.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
That's always when you talk preparedness with anybody. That's the first thing they talk about is you might have a pantry full of stuff, but if you haven't got water,
Yeah.
it isn't going to help. So,
Hmm.
yeah, water's the one thing we overlook a lot of times when we build our little preparedness closet.
Hmm.
So, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
here we go.
I can see just
Okay,
waiting to ask a question.
audience.
Any other
Do we
questions
still have
in the chat?
audience
Okay.
questions from there? Oh, there we go. There is.
Oh,
McMinimum, hi.
hi, Big Meneman.
Did any Yeah. Did any readers predict the corona thing happening?
Hmm.
I think Sylvia Brown. Um, wasn't there? There's a couple book excerpts that are going out. One was from Sylvia Brown, where she predicted that in 2020 there was going to be a viral outbreak that is a pandemic that affects the lungs and the bronchial tubes, and that it would disappear as quickly as it came, and it would be a global pandemic, and then come back in 10 years.
I heard that same excerpt as well. And yeah, I saw the book today, and it's in the process of being reprinted because there's quite a demand for it now.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
but I did not predict it. I'm sorry, I didn't. It caught me by surprise, like everybody else. So
It was the same for me. I didn't see any virus. I did see delays and I did see blackouts, but I did not see that it would be caused by a global pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
I felt the energy of something was going to happen, but that was about as far as I got with it. It was just that kind of looking over your shoulder a lot and going, I don't know what's coming, but it's coming.
Now, see, I've been having that feeling since October of 2019, or no, 2018. I mean,
okay.
I've been, like I said, I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop for all this time, and it's like, and I did say, I wonder if was this what I was waiting for, because I don't know. I didn't like Cindy said, I didn't see anything that would tell me what to expect. It was just like, there's, you get that kind of chill, and you know something's up, but you don't quite know, which corner to go stand in.
Yep.
So.
Okay, we do have another question. Kevin, your screen has frozen. I don't know if it's you or me. Okay, I'm still moving, so
I'm still moving on what I can see.
Okay.
So can you hear me?
It's okay. I can hear you. You bet. We sure can. Yep. Okay. There is a tried and true method that made tarot accurate. Accurate in the way it directs how people figure it out. The spiritual plan for their lives. How can we build on that plan? How can we build on that spiritual growth? If spiritual ways become more mainstream and we need more spiritual answers for people using tarot in their own personal rituals. It's a long sentence. I'm sorry. And it had periods.
Okay. I'm not sure I understood exactly the question, though.
Honestly, I think with the tarot, it's 78 cards, like Kevin was saying, and you get to read them reversed too. Not everybody does, but I do, and I think Kevin would definitely read them reversed.
Yes.
So, 78 times 2, that's how many letters are in your alphabet now. Or, or you could even take it as 78 letters, and they all, it's like, you could take A, and it sounds like A, and ah, and eh, So, you take all those letters and you put them together in a layout and they form words, and then you expand your layout and they form a sentence. You tune in. And I think that addresses the first part of the audience's question. And then what was the other part of it? To
enhance the spiritual growth. Yeah.
Well, there was somebody else that was talking about, or someone in the audience, I don't know if it's the same person, talking about consecrating a pendulum. It's kind of like you could do that with the cards when you go through each single card in the deck and you look at the standard meaning and what they represent, and then you personalize that. What does that mean to you? What does this card remind you of? And that's how you could use it for your own spiritual answers.
I would agree that's but yes, and you know what? And now that brings up another interesting characteristic of some of us, I guess. I have, well, we've talked about this. I have several decks, as most readers do. I have a couple of decks that I will use for nothing but spiritual questions. The deck that I was using here tonight, the Legacy of the Divine, that's kind of my go-to deck for doing readings in the public, with doing readings with anyone. I use it myself as well. But if I have a certain question that is mostly spiritual in nature, I will go to a couple of other different decks that I pull from, because they tend to, I don't know, their art and their approach is a little different. and gives me a bit more of a spiritual connection, I guess, in the feeling. So yeah, it's maybe there's a different tool for each thing that you're undertaking, each question. But I love to compare them. I did a program at one time for a Valentine's Day presentation. I just took the Lover's card from about, I think it was 20 different decks, and compare them. And oh my goodness, what a variety of imagery and what a variety of meanings you can get from those because they are radically different, some of them. So yeah, it's I think I think what the question might have been is find the right deck that speaks to you on the subject you want to work with. And if it doesn't, then maybe you need a different deck for that particular group of questions. So
I understand that.
it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
It's like my favorite's the Celtic dragon. I don't know if you can see that or not, but
okay.
well, there's the Hermit. That's what.
The Hermit's an appropriate card for this time. Yeah.
The Hermit's perfect for now. Perfect for now.
Well, in the first split that I did there, or the draw that I did, was Justice. So that was just kind of went, wow, that happens to me a lot.
Yeah.
Just pulling a card when somebody else is, and they're the same cards. And I'm no magician. I don't know how to stack a deck, and my hands won't do it anymore anyway. So
I flunked magician school myself. So, so one of the biggest things about the Temperance card that the aspect of it that I found really interesting is it really sounds a warning against complacency. It's the total opposite of the energy of that card. There's no way to stand quietly by when you're holding fire and water in your hands. It's just not going to happen. So sometimes it appears that when you look at the artwork that they can be a little disconnected, a bit aloof as they're standing there with that fire and the water, but they're actually just making room for the next creation. And it's just clearing mind and spirit in preparation. So that's kind of what we need to be spending our time doing right now. And yeah, there's some of us have been at it already. I guess that's why some of us aren't bothered quite so much. We've already been working in this vein for years before. So it's really not a big change for us. But it's going to be a big change for a lot of people, that's for sure. So we're gonna all get to partake. So
yes, indeed. Well, I reached out to a couple of people that I dog and house sit for a lot, and they're right around the corner, and they're police officers. And I said, if you guys have to go on long shifts, don't hesitate to let me know, and I can go by and let the dogs out to potty or just do whatever needs to be done. And she's, oh, thank you. We might have to go to 12-hour days. And I said, and that's no charge, that's just us taking care of one another. So, it's all a real good give and take.
Well, and that's somebody I work with here sometimes. She was doing draw a question today. All of us are doing things online that we never suspected we would do. So she was doing a Facebook Live, and she was doing questions. And where was I going with that now? Oh, at the end she said, if you got an answer today from me, then find a way to pay it forward. Find a way to, because she's doing that gratis. And that's something that I'm sure Cindy's noticed too, that you have to remind people sometimes that they do have a responsibility here when it comes to making sure that you get taken care of as well. And that doesn't mean you're price gouging. It just means you are exchanging energy on an appropriate level. And that's something some people don't grasp that, don't understand that. So you have to forgive them and move on.
Mm-hmm.
I think they
You're
forgot.
getting a little bit garbly.
Yeah.
I'm garbled.
Yeah, a little cutting out, garbledy. Cindy,
Yeah.
is that what you're hearing too?
Yeah, it's dropping out a little bit.
Okay.
Well,
And
I
frozen.
don't know. And frozen.
Do you want to hang it up and call back in, maybe?
Well, I could. I guess I didn't.
I don't know how else to fix that one.
I don't either. We were doing fine until now. Huh? Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Let me hang up and I'll call you right back.
Okie doke.
Okay.
Anonymous dude hey, anonymous dude, thanks for joining.
Mm-hmm.
Is asking, are some things unseeable for psychics?
Absolutely. And I mention this to clients sometimes. I put this on my website too, that there's this universal right to privacy. So say that a guy cheated on his girlfriend and he purposely wants to veil that. There's no way that a psychic is going to see it. There's these corporate veils of privacy too, corporate secrets. It's very hard to pierce through those. You know, there's government secrets. There's your own secrets. I mean, would you like a psychic to know so much or to be able to pierce through the thickest veils and say, oh, I know what kind of panties that you're wearing and the last time you changed them? Probably not. So
Probably not, right?
Yeah. So there are some things that are absolutely unseeable. Yes. Or unforeseeable. Welcome back.
Okay, I can see you can't. I'm not moving, but anyway.
Oh, it's your picture there. Yep.
Okay.
We had a question in chat, and anonymous dude wanted to know, are some things unseeable for psychics? Cindy gave a very good example there, an answer. Do you want to address that as well?
Well, and yeah, I say there are some things that will. We're just as frustrated as you are, believe me, when we can't see. And most of the time, the things that we can't see have something to do with us personally. Those are the hardest things to see. But yeah, there are some times that things will there's so many variables at the time that it's just clear of what's happening. And I just faded out there. So yeah, it's difficult to put your finger on why. Sometimes I have no reason behind it, but yeah, definitely you have some things you're just not going to connect with. So that'd be my answer.
Okay, so some of it is just kind of automatic. Or do people veil or shutter, like shutters on a window? Are they able to shield even maybe their own thoughts and what they don't want you in there digging around to see and going on about?
Well, my experience with that is they're not very successful most of the time. We definitely get information and my favorite stories to tell. This has happened more than once where I'll be addressing a client in front of me and her friend is sitting next to her. And of course the client is, no, she doesn't get it. She doesn't know. No, that doesn't make any sense. Her friend is nodding furiously that yes, that's her. She's doing it. So you know you're getting it. She's just in denial. So yes, most of the time that's exactly what it is. They're just not quite ready to face what you're telling them. Yeah. So, and if they're not willing to accept it, then yeah, denial it's a long river.
Yes.
True. And as that Cleopatra's not the only queen of it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, and there's what I do with my readings is I just ask everybody at the beginning, are you ready for the truth? And that to me is key, because if they're
I
not
like
ready for
that.
the truth, that is going to deflect a lot of the honesty. I mean, that's, if you're coming and you're trying to find out if your partner and you are going to work out, and you can't stand to face the fact that it might not work out, you're not ready to hear the truth. You're not ready for a reading.
Right. I like that. I'm going to have to remember that. That's a perfect line. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I had someone once who at an event, and she walked up to my table, and I was definitely the person who was supposed to read for her today. And so I began. I drew the first round and started to talk to her about an individual that was close to her that was, influencing some things she was doing. And she said, "Oh yeah, I know what that is. I don't want to talk about that." So I'm looking at what I have here on the table, and there's like 15 other readers here today. And I said, apparently I'm not the one for you. So please go find your reader. You'll know when you meet them. But this isn't going to work. I'm going to tell you what I get. And if that's not going to work, then you need to find someone who will tell you what you want to hear. So, and she did. So, but it turned out that the person who read for her drew the exact same card as I did for the first card. So much like what you were just saying there.
She really, really needed to be talking about and hearing the answers of this thing.
Well, and we do that to ourselves. We do that ourselves. Yeah. So why not? Why wouldn't clients do that?
Very true. Jake, in the chat room, if you would put Cindy and Kevin's contact info and their websites back, post those again, please. Christian is asking, or he says, I love these psychics. Do either or both of you do phone readings? And the answer is yes. Yes, they do. That's all they're doing right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
COVID-free readings.
Yep.
I love doing the Zoom meetings if possible. I mean, some people aren't ready for that, and that's okay. I can do phone readings too, but I like doing the Zoom readings because it gives you an opportunity in real time. It's more like a face-to-face meeting, so it's and I don't know, everybody I know is using that platform. So I told Todd tonight, I said I'm waiting for Zoom to crash because it's been overloaded. Right. All of our friends are using it now.
So. And actually, we did find that Zoom works with our with Spreaker and the broadcasting app. So I mean, we can use that next time if you guys want to. Oh. I just I'm familiar with Skype and it works well for me, and I've got the accounts. Have to tag Jake to be in on more of these if we do Zoom.
Oh, really? Okay.
Which is not a problem. We can do that, and maybe we wouldn't get quite so many glitches at the as time goes on. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's been my experience with Skype. I was using Skype for a while, and then it just finally got to the point. It went through a spell about 2 years ago where it was just impossible. Every time you opened it, it crashed. So I went looking for something different, and stumbled across Zoom, and it has been just amazing. So, but no, it's fine. This has worked out pretty well. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know where June went, but she may be having a nap now.
She's always complaining about her Wi-Fi at her house, so I think I think that's what happened. She lost her. So if you were going to give what's what I'll take over here.
Oh,
What's one
please,
piece of
yeah.
advice that we would give for people who are having a difficult time facing what they're facing right now? What would we talk to them about? What would we say to them to help them see their way through what they're experiencing?
I would start with
Sandy?
know thyself.
No. Oh,
Yep.
very good.
Hmm.
Very
Yeah.
good.
And I would start that with the astrology chart. You know, I mean, we could even look at something as basic as sun signs. And a Gemini would have to know that they would like to stay in communication and they like to stay busy. So this is still a good time for a Gemini. They might not get out and about as much as they want to, but they still have the internet to communicate and find new ways to be at the front of the parade if they want to. Aries is going to have to innovate with ways of staying active indoors or the social distancing. You know, I think it might be harder on other signs like you know, the more outgoing type of friendly, you know, people pairing type of signs, for instance, like a Libra that really does want to have the company of people around them, or an Aquarius that, you know, everybody's their friend. So if they're in isolation, this is a little bit tough for them to not be directly connected. But if you know yourself, you would also know what, you know, what would be the relief during a time like this, a time of imposed isolation. You know, getting back to a Virgo, maybe cleaning would be one of the best things to do. For the Gemini, maybe starting a blog or finding, you know, just leading the pack with communicating. For Taurus, maybe baking. Yeah, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
I laugh because my husband is a Taurus and he's a baker.
Oh,
I would love to
fantastic.
try anything that he would bake. Totally love food. So
But well, like, okay, and the Leo in me has the opportunity to go outside in the sunshine and soak up the rays and play with the dogs in the yard. You know, we're still isolated, but we are out there having fun and bleeding off a little energy too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm being optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin, what's your sign?
Well, I'm a Libra. I'm a Libra with a Libra rising, and I got.
Okay.
If you look at my natal chart, everything is clustered up in the left corner. So there's no fire, there's no earth. I mean, I'm total air. It's ridiculous. So therefore, decisions don't come easy. And so
Oh yeah,
it's
as a Libra.
it's a very tough choice for me to make choices. So. Yeah, I think you're right. But you know, I've gotten over the years, I've gotten used to communicating like this and maybe being a little bit more isolated. So it hasn't been a big change for me. I'm getting along with it pretty darn well. In years past, it would have been a huge problem because I would have to be out. I'd have to be doing something outside the house and involved in something in a crowd. So I would say that the biggest thing I would say is J.P. Sears. Who knows J.P. Sears? Do you anybody?
Not I.
Look
Although
up
it
the word.
sounds familiar. Okay.
Yeah, look up J.P. Sears on YouTube. He's got long red hair. And he was a life coach for a while, and then he got very spiritual, and he does a comedic look at things from a spiritual standpoint, and it's hilarious. So yes, you have to
Okay.
let me know what you found when you go there. But he did a thing about getting in touch with your inner weirdo,
I
and
like it already.
that's what we need to be doing. Getting in touch with our inner weirdo. And he said that in his own life, he used the same principle. He said, find that one thing that you absolutely didn't want anybody to ever know about you. the one thing that people picked on you for, the one thing that you were always ashamed of, and then use it. And that's what he did. He used it to leverage so that he's now doing stand-up comedy, and he's got his vlogs and blogs, and he's a character. He's hilarious to watch. So you'll have fun if nothing else. He'll give you something to do with your spare time. So
our Jake says. Our Jake says that he's a Libra, and he doesn't want humans around him, but he's good with his dogs. And he's a double Libra too, but his mom's a Taurus.
Yeah. That can be an okay combination sometimes. So, yeah.
I'm not sure on those.
Yeah, you get a lot of Venus energy. Venus is about love, beauty, fashion, keeping things in harmony, keeping things peaceful. And it's also, of course, the indulgences, the wines, the good foods, the fine meats, a little bit of indulgence. Yeah.
Wow.
So they could go along. It's just so they have that in common because that's the ruling planet for both of them. It's just whether air, which is Libra, could get along well with Earth, which is Taurus, and Libra, which is the cardinal sign, that they're going to get things moving, whether or not they could actually move the immovable Taurus, which is as stubborn as any stubborn sign could get.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, hi. What you doing?
I can definitely attest to that. But in a way, it is good in our relationship. At least it fills a void for me sometimes. Sometimes I need a kick in the butt, and he's good at that. So.
And sometimes Libra could match the stubbornness of a Taurus because when it's scales are swinging, it could cover almost every level of the spectrum with covering the moods of the signs.
All right. Interesting.
Jake says, nah, I'm combative and eat garbage. So he's a goat. He's an actual goat.
Well, now, if you've ever read I can't remember the name of that book either, the book that combined the systems from Eastern Chinese astrology and Western astrology, Cindy probably knows about it. But yeah, I'm a Ram. I'm a Libra Ram, and my husband is a Taurus Ram. We happen to be 12 years apart, so we're both Rams. So
interesting.
Yeah, and it fits. The descriptions in the book are like, oh my God, they're they're like a glove. So they fit very well.
Yeah, it's not. That's why I think looking at more than one divinatory tool is very good, because sometimes people don't have faith in looking at the astrological signs or looking at the planetary placements, and they'll put more faith, say, in cards or in the pendulum or just, the psychic tapping in. So, I mean, I kind of think different strokes for different folks. And if you're not lined up with whatever your sun sign is, then there's more going on in the chart. So, sometimes, I had a client that was a Scorpio, and you know how intense and deep Scorpios could get, but she was identified as the Sagittarius. And as it turns out, her sun sign was a Scorpio, her rising sign was Sagittarius, and almost all her planets were in Sag except for one.
Oh, wow.
Which is why she manifested, yeah. And a Sagittarius is a lot more bouncy and perky and outgoing, and the Scorpio likes privacy. They like to keep things kind of cloak and dagger. It's interesting when you start to look a little bit deeper into it and get answers and know thyself again.
Right.
But it's not for everybody. If it's not for them, then they outwardly just and they find what really works for them. And sometimes that could be found in the most unlikely things. I know one person that used to, I don't know, I guess they got the right insight when they, you know, they'd be in the dark room and kind of scared at what's coming out of the closet. But they got answers that way, almost as if they got the adrenaline, you know, jump that way to finally determine what they want to decide on or what was, you know, the right thing for them at that moment.
Right.
It's like toss a coin and call it, you know, type of thing. Sorry, go on.
No, that's okay. Oh, you brought up using different divinatory tools. Have you ever just reached into your pocket or reached into your purse and pull out what's ever in there and throw it on the table and do a reading?
I haven't. That sounds like a really cool, awesome plan.
It's amazing. I call it, well, it's not mine. I didn't invent it, but it's just called divination with found objects. So whatever's loose in the bottom of your pocket or loose in the bottom of your purse, it'll be some change, some keys, maybe some makeup, or, you know, just there'll be a variety of different things. Everybody will be different. And you just kind of toss them into the middle of the table and then start to read. Okay, well, if you're sitting here, then what's in front of you and what's beside you and what's, you know, and it gives you, it's amazing what can come through when you're doing that. It's kind of fun. It's a fun thing to do as a group. If you've got people together, when we ever get to do that again.
Do it via Zoom or Skype.
There you go. We can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jake's troubled because all of his, what is that? All of his deals were in the 12th house. All of his planets are in the 12th house.
Oh, wow.
Says that may explain him.
That's at the top of the 12th chart,
house,
right?
That's right at the, on the left side of the chart. So that's the eastern side because it's flipped. And that would be right after, that would be like the time when the sun is coming up at daybreak. Ooh. So it's called the house of self-undoing, which is not totally accurate, but it's a house of cadency, you know, things falling like a cascade.
Okay.
But it's also the house of privacy, of secrets, of addictions, of institutionalism, of you know, being in hospitals. But it's a matter of recuperating. It's the convalescent stage. It's, you know, it's getting rid of what you don't need in your life. It's a place where, yeah, there is sunlight, but it's not shining so bright and like as the top of the sky, like what you would get in high noon. So it's known to be a very quiet house. So if you have a lot of planets there, it will lend to even the most extroverted signs being a little bit private sometimes. But if his sun is there, usually it leads to accidental, you know, popularity. Like Madonna has her sun in the 12th house, and look how popular she is.
True.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, guys. Well, let me see what else Jake is saying. He's the busy little rabbit man.
He's sending messages back and forth.
Yes, he is. Well, he's sending them. I'm just reading it out. Oh, he's only addicted to cookies. Purge.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
That's the indulgence part.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we're running on down out the clock, and
okay.
Would you like to tell us how to get a hold of you once again? And I know that Jake has been. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, well, we have one quick question here from Rico. How do these different signs relate to each other's sun signs, rising, moon, so on and so forth?
So your sun sign, your rising, and your moon make up about 80% of you, I'd say. Your sun sign is your vitality. It's who you are. Your rising sign is the impression that people get of you. Some people say it's the mask that you wear, but it's more the impression people get. And the moon sign rules your emotions. So, you know, if you had if you had, say, a Scorpio sun and you had a moon in Gemini, well, that's going to add a lot of levity to the emotions that the vital essence of a Scorpio tends to bring, which is quite intense. And say that Scorpio had a Libra rising. Well, that's even more levity because now you're bringing air to water that either could create a vapor, that could create a splash, that could create thought. You know, it adds a levity. Bubbles, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so those are the different aspects. It's, again, the, you know, who you are, what you come across as, and your emotional countenance there.
Good. I have nothing to add to that, by the way. She's the astrologer.
Mm-hmm. And she's very good at it.
I'm enjoying listening to what she's saying because it matches up with what I'm hearing. So
I'm curious. I know you've done my charts before, but what are the risings and moon and suns, and you probably told me, and I just don't remember.
I forgot, but I would not be surprised if you have a Cancer prominence there, because you do come across with the Cancerian energy of being very caring, being very chirpy and cheerful, even though Cancers could sometimes, they could be moody, but they're more, it's a warmth that comes with them. And I don't remember, but I do feel that you had that. And I think you had your sun in a part of the chart that was a little bit more introverted for the typical Leo. I'd have to look at it again, but I'll have that ready next time when I'm on the show.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot. I apologize. It just made me wonder.
And what's important is the way we determine it, and we determine it according to the exact time and location that you were born.
Oh,
so
okay.
If you were born in Kansas City, Missouri at 9 o'clock in the morning, you would have a certain rising sign, and more likely, your sun sign would be the same there as it would be in New York or California, as long as it's not on a cusp. But your rising sign, say that you were born in California, would be different than your rising sign in Kansas City, Missouri, most likely. It would shift by a whole sign if it was deep enough into the 30 degrees. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had a Cancer rising, say in Kansas City, Missouri, and you moved west, it might move it to a Gemini, which is great because it would be easier to lose weight on the West Coast than you would have over in Canada. Yeah. But if you moved east and you were, closer to that spectrum of the zodiac, it might change it to a Leo rising, which would make you more outgoing, more, if you're a Leo sun, that would even make you more of a Leo.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if we don't have any more questions, then thank you all for joining in chat. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Cindy, for being such fantastic guests, per usual. Thank you, June, wherever you are. Thank you to Jake for taking care of the chat rooms and blowing up my phone for me. How would people get a hold of you?
Go ahead,
through me. My website is www.kansascityastrology.com, and they could reach me at info@kansascityastrology.com, or at 816-895-2545. And I'd also like to extend my thanks to the audience as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll second that. Yes, thanks everybody, and thank you, June and Wendy, for letting me come back and redeem myself. I was just so horrified when I heard the last.
I knew you were. I knew you were.
Thank you very much.
that bad to us, but
Oh, God.
I understood.
It horrified me. So, but anyone who wants to reach out to me, I'm available at my website, kevinwalder.com. And my phone number is 425-220-9029. Or you can find me on the Facebook pages for the Oracle Scroll, Tarot by Kevin Walder. And then, of course, my personal page is on there too, just Kevin Walder. So I'm pretty easy to find. If you type my name in, you'll pretty much find me. My books are available on Amazon. Again, just type in my name and they'll pop up eventually. Sometimes that list is a little crazy. So thanks everybody for being with us tonight. We've enjoyed it tremendously and had a great time. Thank you, Wendy, and June for providing the platform.
It's our pleasure always, and you're both welcome back whenever. Just give me a ping and a ring, and we'll go from there.
Very good. All right. Good night.
All right. Well, good night. I will take us out with, in honor of our Jake, House of the Rising Sun, and it's not the old one. It's something about heathens, and I'm sorry, it's eluding my head right now. But here we go. Everybody have a great, safe week. Stay isolated. Oh, come back Sunday night. I'll be talking to a circle of witches, and maybe we can, bring in some other people and give some ideas, thoughts, and opinions too. They're great gals. Now I have no control over them. I will say that right now.
We knew that when we said they were witches.
Exactly. All right, everybody. Have a good one. Good night.
Good night.
Good
night.
Okay, and we are muted.
That was fun, Kevin. I loved your insight. That was you share so many peaceful and harmonious things. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're the kind of person, you're the kind of reader, clearly, when people come to get a reading, I'm sure they leave feeling much better than when they first saw you.
Well, I hope so. Well, thank you very much. I enjoyed listening to your astrology. To me, as soon as I hear degrees and movements, and I just lose it. Math was never my thing in school, but you made it very simple and easy to follow. I have a bunch of astrologer friends, and they aren't as good at explaining it as you were. So
thank you.
I compliment you on you made it.
the ruin of many a pauper. In God, I know I'm one. My mother was a traitor. She stole my new blue jeans. My father was a gambling man down in New Orleans. Tell your children not to do what I have done. Spend your lives in sin and misery in the house of the rising sun.